What's up, everyone? We're back here with Julie Frink, and today we're going to discuss only avocado varieties. Julie has worked closely with hundreds of different avocado varieties. She used to work at the field station down in Irvine, where there was a huge collection.
200.
Huge collection of
200 varieties.
many different varieties. Julie worked closely with all of them, so she has insight and knowledge that she gained over the years working with these avocado varieties. Today, we're going to discuss these varieties, and Julie's going to tell us all about it, and she's going to give us her insight. So, Julie, again, thank you for taking the time to meet with us. Let's get started, right?
Oh, okay.
All right, let's do it. Okay, first variety, Fuerte.
Fuerte. Okay, Fuerte got its name because out of a whole field full of avocados during a cold spell, it was the only one that survived. Fuerte is strong in Spanish, so it became Fuerte. And it's a very, very good variety. I think genetically it's probably mostly Mexican, but it's got Guatemalan in it, I'm guessing, but that's what I'm thinking, because it is very late in the fall and goes into, you can go into the early spring, but it's a very good variety, and
Yes,
it can produce a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
And I can't say enough about Fuerte, except there's one thing. Fuerte is a bee flower type, which means it is the flowers are female in the afternoon, but sometimes too late in the afternoon if it's cool, and they're male the next day. So a lot of times you'll get flowers and you'll think, oh, here comes a big crop, but they're all the boys and the girls because it's cool, and it just doesn't quite come around. So where you might get a huge crop in Anaheim, if you're half a mile from the beach, you might not get as big a crop. It depends on the weather.
So for Fuerte, it helps to have Fuerte trees more inland.
Because of it being a bee flower type.
Okay, interesting. That's good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Great.
Oh, and like I say, they are very, very delicious.
I totally agree. I think it's one of the best tasting avocados.
It is.
It's really, really good.
And at Irvine, it produced very well.
Yeah.
And it was great.
And how long do they take to ripen, in your opinion, a Fuerte?
You mean after they're picked?
No, after
on the
tree, yeah.
They flower in the spring, and usually in November you've got pretty good tasting fruit.
Okay, so that's a great point. So it takes less than a year, about a little less than a year to be ready.
Because there's a little bit of Mexican in them.
Yeah.
They're not as Guatemalan as the ones that take a full 18 months.
Yeah. That's a huge plus, I think, because like you mentioned last time, with the Guatemalan types, they take 18 months on the tree to ripen. But with the Fuerte, this flavor is just as deep and just as oily and just as intense as a Guatemalan type, but it takes less time to ripen.
A little bit less, few months less.
Yeah, that's a huge plus. Okay, great.
Okay, what else?
Moving on. Let's move on to Reed.
Reed, gosh, I think I'm repeating myself, but Reed is a fantastic avocado, and it does take 18 months. And it, like Holiday, which used to be XX3, Reed and Holiday, they are big, and they get picked early because nobody can believe that you have to have a fruit on the tree from the time it's a little teeny thing till it's ready to eat, 18 months. They'll argue with you. You can't convince them. And they'll say, oh, it's just not really that good. Well, neither is an apple when it's picked half ripe, So but if you wait until September, it's 2nd September, and you eat it September, October, November, December, like I did this year with mine that doesn't have any on it now for next year, darn. Anyway, it's a fantastic avocado. Oh, and I wanted to show you a picture. In its natural state, I've got some pictures of Reeds here too.
Yeah.
In its natural state, it will grow very tall and skinny.
Okay, let's show the camera.
Very tall and skinny, yeah. But, mine is pruned, and I just have a perfect little tree in my front yard because it's narrow And because I prune it, it's short.
Yeah.
And that was no trouble to prune because I picked the budwood off the top to make new trees, and it still produces very well.
Would you recommend reed for someone who has a small backyard?
Yes, or somebody that wants to hide the neighbor back of them that runs around in his shorts. You know, anything you want to hide, you could make a tall reed, and you'd still get good fruit.
Yeah.
But I wanted a short one, so mine is just a perfect little narrow front yard tree.
Perfect. Great.
Did I tell you more than I should have?
No, that's great.
Okay.
As much as you want to tell us about these varieties, because your experience with them, it goes back decades. You know, you've worked with them closely, so as much as you know and much as you can recommend or tell us, we would love to hear it. Yeah.
My friend Peter has a whole row of reeds along a street that is on his property, so that he doesn't hear or see the cars, so that it looks more like it's open land than that there's a busy street below his property. And here's a picture. Reeds are big and round and fat and wonderful.
Some reed avocados, people.
Yeah.
Heavy producers.
They can be.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, next variety, Lamb Hass.
Well, I call it lamb because it was called Lamb Hass, I think, so that they could sell it as Hass. So they could connect it strongly with Hass. But I just think it's a different variety, and it's a nice variety. It's a little later than Hass. It has good production. I've seen old Hass trees. I've never seen a really older than, say, 30 years, lamb. So, but I think they're a bit smaller. At least the ones I've been around have been smaller, but they're also younger.
Okay.
But it's a little bit later, and it's a good variety. Yeah. It's, again, a Guatemalan Mexican variety.
Is just, you mentioned size of trees and things. You said smaller or bigger. In general, is it easy to control the size of a tree that's notoriously going to get really big, like a Fuerte, for example?
Fuertes sort of spread out. They don't go up as much. So the people that I know that have them kind of have let them spread, and they're just kind of a nice tree. They haven't bothered with them a lot. But the Hass tend to get tall and big, like the one I have here in the middle of the yard. And they need a lot of pruning.
Okay.
Now, a bacon and a zutano want to get really big, and they need a lot of aggressive pruning, which is one of the negatives to me about having either a bacon or a zutano. Okay. I prefer avocado that wants to be a little smaller.
Smaller type, yeah.
Yeah, like, say, Sharwil. It just doesn't get that big.
Yeah.
Another one, Edranol, doesn't get that big.
Edranol, yeah. We should... We'll talk about Edranol. Yeah. I want to hear about it because I recently got some scions. I want to know all about it.
Do you know what to talk about this very second?
Let's talk. Yeah, go. Let's talk about Edranol.
Okay, we're going to talk about Sharwil later, which Sharwil is an excellent avocado, and its tree is smaller. I don't think we ever pruned the ones in the field, and they were a nice tree size. Now that doesn't mean they'll go in pots. No avocado will go very well in a pot. But a Sharwil is a very, very nice tree, named after Mr. Sharp and Mr. Wilson in Australia. So then it went to Hawaii, and they tacked on Kona to make it sound Hawaiian. But I like to just call it Sharwil after Mr. Sharp and Mr. Wilson. And Edranol is very much like Sharwil, in my opinion.
Okay. Great.
It doesn't have as pretty a color, but it's very flavorful. I like Edranol a lot. I have an Edranol and I have a Sharwil, but they're both very small yet, so I don't have any fruit. Right. But I like them both very much.
Yeah, I tried Edranol once a few years back. It was very good.
It's good.
It was good. I like Kona Sharwil a little bit more though.
Well, one time I took a guacamole to a party. And everybody said, "Oh, this guacamole is so good." And I thought, well, it's the same recipe. You know, I just smush up avocado and throw a bunch of salsa in it and call it good. But they were all just bragging on it. And then I realized it was all made of Sharwil.
Ah,
And so
nice.
it probably would be the
Yeah,
best guacamole
yeah,
they'd ever had in their
yeah.
lives.
And speaking of Edranol and Kona Sharwil,
Sharwil.
oh yeah, Sharwil. Sorry, I
Knock,
said
knock that coat
no,
off.
no Kona. Okay. All right. Speaking of those two, what when would you pick them? At what time of the year?
Summer.
Summer.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Most folks would think they would pick Sharwil in spring, but you would wait till summer.
I'd wait till summer.
Summer.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's again a Guatemalan
Okay.
Mexican. Yeah, yeah. I like
So,
it in summer.
okay. Okay.
But of course, if one falls on the ground,
Mhm.
you let it soften.
Yeah.
You try it, and if you like it, go for it.
Yeah.
And it's different in different places. San Diego is different than Carpinteria.
Yeah.
So it depends on where you live.
What you want to expand on that? What's the difference between San Diego and Carpinteria in terms of picking avocados at certain times of year?
Earlier, the more south you are, the earlier I think things get ready.
Okay. So it's like a wave.
It's kind of a wave.
So whatever variety you have, you're gonna pick it earlier in San Diego than if you have the same variety in Carpinteria,
Yeah,
which is much more north.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good thing. That's very interesting.
That's what I've noticed anyway. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Next variety, Surprise.
I can't tell you very much about Surprise except it's a good avocado.
Okay.
And it was part of Dr. Berg's program for finding new avocado varieties.
Okay.
And it's nice.
Is it, how would you compare it to Hass? Because many people consider it a Hass type avocado.
That's about what I'd say.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, next variety, bacon.
Okay. I have several objections to bacon. One is that the tree gets really huge very easily. The other is that the fruit doesn't last as long. You know, it goes, well, some of these, like Reed, you could pick it for 5 months. Pinkerton, same thing, only at a different time of the year. But bacon, the bottoms of it tend to rot, and I don't know. And it doesn't taste like bacon. It was named after Jim Bacon.
Right, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
don't buy a bacon and expect it to taste bacon.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. It's going to taste like an avocado.
Yeah. That Jim Bacon had the first. But it's good, you know, but I think all the others we've talked about, I would prefer.
You would rate them a little bit higher.
I would rate them a little bit higher, yes.
Okay. When is the picking season for bacon?
It would be earlier. It wouldn't take a full 18 months.
Okay, so that's another variety that doesn't need 18
yeah.
months. Okay.
It would be late spring, I think.
Okay.
Boy, I kind of forget, because when I was out working with them all the time, I knew so much about it, but now I kind of, I'd say,
yeah, okay,
or late fall, maybe, I don't know.
Late fall, okay, great.
But anyway, it doesn't take 18 months.
Right, yeah, all right. Next variety, Nabal.
Okay, Nabal or Nabal, whichever way you want to say it. It's an excellent avocado, and it is the parent seed of Reed. However, it looks completely different than Reed, just like a kid can look different than his father or mother. The Reed, they're both round. The Nabal has a tougher skin. Yeah. I think maybe the best avocado I've ever tasted in my entire life was a Nabal.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. It was, you know, I got one that I just couldn't believe how good it was, and it was a Nabal. And it's also the parent to Julia, which is another very good variety that doesn't, the leaves don't look the same, the fruit doesn't look the same, but apparently they're closely related.
If I recall, the field station, they planted a lot of Nabal seedlings.
I don't know.
Looking to get some, and didn't they call them NA and then give them a number, something like that?
Yeah.
NA 520
Yeah,
or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Were if you recall, were any of those standouts or special in any way?
Oh gosh, I'd have to think. I don't know,
No, not off the top of your
but
head.
I just know Julia and Reed are excellent, and they're
Okay.
seedlings of Nabal. And
Yeah.
if I've got one, I've got several grafted, and I'm hoping they take, because I want to put one here. I've got a space by my back wall that I'm going to put one in, and if I get any seeds, well,
Yeah.
they'll be planted. But of course, if I get any avocado seeds, they get planted,
Yeah.
because I need all the
Rootstock.
rootstock I
Yep.
can get a hold of. Yeah,
That's right. You do a lot of grafting.
I do a lot of grafting.
What varieties do you like to graft? And here's a good. Have you noticed certain varieties will take grafts better than others? Have you noticed something like that?
Not offhand. I know sometimes I have a lot more failures, and other times I have a lot more successes.
Okay.
But I haven't attributed that to the variety particularly.
Okay.
But I suspect that could surely be the case. A more vigorous variety, you would think, would graft easier.
Does Nabal share the growth habit of its seedling reed, or does it?
No, Nabal or Nabal, whichever pronunciation you use, is a wide, fat tree with great big leaves, and its little kid reed is a narrow tree and the leaves are not as fat, not as wide at all.
Okay.
So they're quite different in every respect.
Yeah.
But they're both excellent.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love Nabal too.
Yeah.
So these Guatemalan types like Nabal and reed, would you recommend folks plant them in colder areas? Should they take that risk?
They have a lot of Guatemalan in them, and anything Mexican does better in cold areas. When Fuerte has quite a bit of Mexican, and that's why it will withstand quite a bit of cold. So I don't know.
Okay.
But you can't always tell. Some things just make liars out of you, and they might be might not act like all the others of the same type. So it's hard to say.
Yeah. Okay. So.
But don't plant them in Maine.
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
Or Minnesota. No.
Yeah. That's not going to work out.
Yeah. No, it wouldn't be so good.
So with Nabal, should you expect fruit every year, consistent?
I think it's a little alternating. Most avocado trees are. There for a while we had two. Let me think. Edranols, and it was great because one always had fruit and the other didn't. They alternated, and then something happened and they got on the same track.
Yeah.
And it was all or nothing. So it's hard to say. And sometimes you'll have one limb that'll alternate with the rest of the tree and give you fruit. So
that's why it's a good idea to have as many avocado trees planted as you can.
It's always a good idea to have as many avocado trees as you can.
So you make sure you get avocados every year. Yeah.
You try.
Yeah.
I think at last count, I have 42 varieties.
42. Wow.
In this yard, and they're pretty darn close together. That's why I call it a jungle.
Yeah.
And some of them are very young, and if in 30 years, it'll be a bigger jungle than it is now.
Oh yeah.
But
but you'll have more avocados then.
Well, hopefully. Yeah. So when I'm, in my hundreds, man, can I eat avocados?
Nice. Okay. Next variety, Jan Boyce.
I loved JB.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always call it JB, and a couple of us that worked at the field have grafted it. I have grafted it into my friend Jim's yard. He lives about a block from me, and he had a seedling with two things going up, we call them branches, going up. And so I put JB on one
Yeah.
and Reed on the other
Mhm.
because his initials were JB, and I
Mhm.
thought that was only appropriate.
Right.
Boy, does he get fruit on his
Mhm.
JB, and he has to net it because the squirrels
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
death on that tree. But
Yeah.
it's been a very good tree for him, and I love it. And I've got a picture of it, but this I don't think this is very good because most of the JBs I know have little teeny. Well, for an avocado,
Right.
they have the smallest seed
Yeah,
of
they
any of
do.
the avocados
It's pretty
I know.
surprising to see when you open a JB,
Yeah.
especially for the first time,
Oh yeah. And
and you're like,
wait a
"Wait,
minute.
what is going on?
Yeah,
There's
this is a tiny
where's the seed?"
seed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've planted the seeds
Yeah.
and they send out roots like you can't believe.
Really, the
It's
little
kind
guys.
of, yeah, it's kind of like we got to make roots because we don't have a lot of vegetable matter
Right.
to live on. So we better send out
Right.
some roots.
Okay, that's
So
interesting.
they're
Yeah.
aggressive little seeds.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I've planted one Gen Boy seed, and
uh,
it grew. It grew
yeah.
like a
Now they
normal.
send out a
Yeah.
small stalk out the top,
Right.
but the roots just really like to
Good
go.
root system.
Yeah.
Okay.
At
All
least,
right.
and I've taken a lot of them apart to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's moving on. Next variety, Nimlioh.
Nimlioh, I don't have one. It's a good tree.
Hmm.
It reminds me a little bit of Nabal or Nabal, whichever.
Right.
Yeah, because it's more spreading and they're round
Hmm.
and it's nice. It's good.
Now,
And we're talking again 18 months.
18 months,
Yeah.
right. Now, there's something about Nimlioh that's special and unique. You want to talk about the size of a Nimlioh, the size of the fruit.
The size of the fruit is big
Yeah.
and round.
Uh-huh.
And it came up to this country years ago
Mhm.
from Guatemala.
Mhm.
So it's an old timer,
Right.
but it's good.
Is it, in your experience, does it get bigger than the Nabal and the reed? Because I've seen Nimliohs. I've seen one Nimlioh tree and the
They
fruit
might
was
get a little bit
very big.
bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they might. Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And another one that gets big is holiday.
Right.
People, again, they don't give it the fruit long enough on the tree
Hmm.
because everybody wants to pick it because it's big and it gets
Yeah.
really big.
It's
Yeah,
huge.
really big.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Next variety, Pinkerton.
I love Pinkerton.
Yeah.
It comes on early in the spring.
Hmm.
It doesn't need the 18 months, but it needs it doesn't need a year. So let's say it becomes a little teeny fruit by the next year. It's a big pear-shaped fruit
Yeah.
and it's great. So I like
Yeah.
it because February, March, April,
Yeah.
May, you gotta have a good avocado. And if you
Yeah.
have a Pinkerton tree that's
You're gonna get
really
fruit, yeah.
going, yeah, you might have a lot of fruit in the
Yeah.
spring.
I think we should clarify when you're talking about picking in March, April, May. Julie's referring to fruit picked that formed the year before. So she's not talking about fruit that formed in the same year except Fuerte. But when you're talking about reed, and when Julie says pick a reed in September, October, November, she's talking about pick the fruit that formed the year before.
Yes.
So that's I think that's an important clarification.
Yeah, that's why I
Yeah.
keep saying
Yeah.
18 months.
Because
18
I've
months.
gotten a lot of folks picking their fruit so early and they
So
get
early.
disappointed. Yeah.
They can't, yeah.
Yeah.
I even have neighbors that they said that they bought a house and their owners told them that I had grafted the tree in the backyard
Hmm.
and it was reed. And they picked it, when they moved in, they picked the fruit and they thought it was the best fruit they'd ever had. The next year, the fruit wasn't any good.
Hmm.
Well, then they figured out they picked it a year
Hmm.
too soon.
Yeah.
July or so. Gwen.
Nice.
Yeah, it's got,
You
let's
pick it
see,
in July?
February, March, April, May, June, July. It's got another
Yeah.
six months
Yeah.
before it's ready.
The Gwen.
Yeah, and I need to prune it.
Yeah. Next variety, Carmen Hass.
Okay, I just call it Carmen again because, you know, they like the Hass so that they can sell it as Carmen as a Hass. So I could just call it Carmen. And then I gave it a bad time at first because I thought, gosh, 3 crops, no, whatever, you know. But
Mm.
I found out once we had a time where we didn't have a lot of fruit, but Carmen kept coming on, and it blossoms. It has a lot of off blossoms or blossoms at different times, and it lets you know when it's ready to pick because it starts getting a little black.
Ah, okay.
So if you can't go by the calendar. You just
Mhm.
go by the fruit looks a little black, you pick it and it's great.
Ah, okay.
So it's a nice variety. I have
Yeah.
it growing, but it's still pretty tiny.
Okay. Interesting.
So, but Carmen's good,
Yeah.
and it does have a long season
Yeah.
because of that.
Does
Just yeah.
how many blooms have you seen on a Carmen tree? Like I know, have you worked with any mature sized Carmen trees? And and if so, how many blooms have you seen?
I just know we got quite a bit of fruit off
Okay.
of them, and they were fairly young.
Mm. Okay.
So I think they're
Yeah.
they're worthwhile
Yeah.
to have, and like I said, they have a long season. So
Nice. Okay, great.
so if you know when to pick them, you start recognizing, oh, it's got a little black on it. It's
Ready to
time to
go.
go. You
Yeah.
can recognize the maturity once you know the tree,
Yeah.
and they're good.
Yeah. Great. How would you compare the flavor of Carmen to just a regular Hass avocado? Do you
I
recall?
don't know that well. I guess they're similar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next variety, Gwen.
Gwen. Oh, well, you took a picture of my Gwen
Yeah,
tree.
yeah,
Uh, I think they tend to be narrow
yeah.
also
Mm-hmm,
because that's what happened with mine.
mm-hmm,
And out at the field, I didn't see any big wide Gwens at all.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so I would, oh, and then one of my neighbors had one and it was tall
Mm-hmm.
and fairly narrow.
Yeah,
But they can be good producers,
yeah.
and they like another tree around to cross pollinate with.
Oh, they need a. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Is it a variety that what at what time of year would you pick a Gwen?
Probably about the time you'd pick Hass in the
Oh, okay,
summer,
okay.
but they are green,
Yeah.
and that's why they thought that for a while they were going to have a green Hass,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and then they found out, yeah, we've got to have black fruit. People don't like green fruit, but it's a good fruit,
Yeah,
and it is
yeah,
green,
yeah. Okay.
and it doesn't turn black
Right.
at all.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay. Next variety, Queen.
Queen, I like Queen because Queen gets so big,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and Queen has a lot of cukes. Do you know what a cuke is?
The one without the seed.
It's one without the
Yeah.
seed. It's the pollen tube in the flower
Mm-hmm.
has something that is not quite right, and some trees cuke a lot,
Yeah.
and some trees never cuke.
Mm-hmm.
And Queen cukes a lot, so you get these great, huge deli pickles things.
Wow. Okay.
So they're really
Nice.
interesting. They're fun to look at.
Ah, that's interesting. Yeah.
And so you'll get about as many of those
Yeah.
as you get the great big
Yeah.
Queen fruit.
Wow.
And it's good.
Yeah.
I took one to one of my kids' house, and I think he was about 9 years old at the time, ate the whole thing. He liked it. You know, they like the
Yeah.
Queen. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's pretty. It's
Yeah.
a great, big, pretty
It's a
fruit.
huge fruit. It's a Guatemalan type, right?
It's very, yeah, with some West Indian.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
we've been talking
Yeah.
about Guatemalan Mexicans
Mm-hmm.
that are ready in summer,
Mm-hmm.
and Mexicans that are ready quite early but are
Mhm.
small.
Mm-hmm.
And the Guatemalan West Indian is earlier because a West Indian doesn't take very long on the tree.
Ah, okay.
But a West Indian is also not full of oil.
Oh, okay.
But the Queen, even though it is part West Indian,
Mm-hmm.
has pretty good flavor in it. So I've got to have it because
Yeah.
it's such a
Yeah.
fun fruit. You
Yeah.
take one someplace and people are just astonished at how big it is.
It's really. It's probably one of the biggest avocados I've seen.
Yeah,
Maybe
that and the
a few others. Yeah.
choquette.
Choquette. Yeah. Then
Yeah,
there's.
but the choquette seems to be more
Mm,
West Indian than the Queen does. The Queen has a harder shell,
harder shell. Yeah.
and the one the
Mhm.
West Indian we just looked at.
Okay. Okay.
But I had to have the queen.
Yeah.
So I've got two,
Yeah.
and they're both. The one is the one in the front yard, and it's about 4 feet tall.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the one in the back that's just about a foot or so tall. So I'm hoping
Nice.
to get some good queen fruit one of these times.
Wow, amazing. Speaking of these varieties like Queen, these really big avocados, uh, have what have you worked with avocado varieties that get really big? I'm thinking like maybe Daily 11. Is that a big one? And then
Daily
John
11
Hurd or something like that.
Well, oh, hey, Daily 11 is a queen seedling.
Ah, okay, makes sense.
Yeah,
that's a huge
because it's big.
avocado too.
That way I understand it, Mr. Daly planted a bunch of queen seeds, and they grew, and they were Daily 1, Daily 2, Daily 3.
Okay.
Daily 11 was the 11th in the row, I guess. And I like it. It's a big, long fruit. And I think it's good, and it's fun to slice on a plate because it's so long.
It's just a massive, long avocado.
Yeah. I love Daily 11. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was at a Carpentry Avocado Festival one time, and somebody had a Daily 16. That thing was amazing. It was hugely long.
Was it bigger than Daily 11?
It was bigger than Daily 11.
Wow.
And I wanted budwood from that thing so bad. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But I never got it.
All right. Yeah. There's so many different varieties of avocado out there. There's a whole world beyond the Hass avocado.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's kind of if you explore and you ask around, you can find really, really interesting varieties like that, like Daily 11, Daily 16.
Well, and then if you went to Florida, there'd be a whole bunch new or Cuba that you didn't know. You go to South Africa, or anyway, Africa.
Yeah.
They've got varieties. Israel does a lot with avocados. And so there's all kinds of varieties out there, because every time you plant a seed, you get a new variety. For instance, if you planted a seed and it grew up and it was the most wonderful avocado in the world, we'd have the AJ avocado.
Yeah.
And so
just driving around certain parts of town, you'll see huge avocado trees, and a lot of them look like seedlings, because you look at the fruit, you get close, and the fruit look unlike any other related variety, commonly known varieties. And you're like, man, this is probably a seedling, and the fruit's probably pretty good.
You don't know.
Yeah, you don't know.
You don't know. Yeah, it could be really, really good. Yeah.
That's why
I had one out at the field there for a while, and I called it Sepulveda because it was from Sepulveda Street somewhere. And it was a seedling, and it was really good.
Yeah.
And some seedlings are awful. You don't know. Like I say,
it's the lottery. It's kind of like the lottery.
Yeah, or having a kid. You don't know what you're going to get. You get the best one in the whole wide world.
Yeah.
Like my kids.
I'm not going to ask you which kid is the good
It's the best one. They're all great.
Yeah.
But then I adopted them, so I can't.
Yeah.
I can't say I had a direct influence.
I wouldn't say it's like the lottery. I think you have better chances than the lottery.
I think so too.
Based on some conversations I've had with people, a few people have the space and the time to plant seedlings, and there's some of their seedling more often than not. It's actually pretty good fruit.
Two. Yeah. I have Rodriguez. A lady came with a great big long avocado, and so I took budwood, and I have a Rodriguez. So we don't. Anyway, it's just a seedling, and I have one back here, C. Davis. C. Davis, and this lady from Long Beach brought an avocado, nice avocado, and she wanted an avocado tree just like it, but she was going to have to take out her tree, and she couldn't stand to be without her avocado tree. She wanted to get another one like it. So I found out that it was a seedling, and it was about 3 stories tall, and it was pushing over her garage because the trunk was massive. The roots weren't a problem. It was the trunk was pushing the garage off the foundation. She showed me a picture later of the trucks and everything hauling the wood and so forth away. But I made her a number of trees, and my daughter-in-law is Sherry Davis. So I gave her one with several for her. She has one in her yard, and some of her friends do, and I have one growing right over here.
Wow. Nice.
Very nice avocado,
Yeah.
and somebody planted a seed.
Yeah. Amazing.
About 100 years ago.
Huh. Yeah. That's so interesting to see what happens when you plant a seed, and you never have no idea what you're going to get.
It just takes longer.
It just takes years and time and stuff.
But that's what a breeding program is, to try to get a new variety, is plant seeds and see what happens.
There's always a chance, though, that you'll never get fruit. My sister got a house in Palos Verdes, 30-year-old avocado tree, 30 feet tall, never made a single fruit. It was a seedling. Yep. So you don't know what can happen.
That can happen.
Yeah.
But it's probably a pretty tree.
Yeah. All right.
If that's what you want. If you want fruit, you better graft it.
Yeah, you gotta graft.
Yeah.
All right, Julie. Thank you for your time again.
Oh, we're through?
Wait. Did we
talk about Queen?
We talked about Queen. Yeah.
Okay.
What else? What did we miss?
Hellen? Did we talk about Hellen?
Oh, Hellen.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's talk about Hellen.
Let's talk about Hellen. Okay. I got the Hellen I went on a trip with my cousin Esther, and we went to this lady's house who unfortunately can't remember her name now, and she had a field of Hellens, and she sold her Hellens, Hellen, to a Mexican restaurant chain because they liked them, because they peel like a banana. The flesh is absolutely beautiful. They're big and they're very, very tasty. And so I got the budwood, put it in the field, and we loved the Hellen. In fact, one of our rare fruit grower people say it's her favorite of all of them. And in July, it's wonderful. It came from Los Angeles, from Dr. Hellen in the 20s.
Wow, okay.
And we have one growing in Dr. Hellen's nephew, great-great-nephew, I think, in Huntington Beach.
Wow.
So it's to me, it's got history. So one time I was at the Avocado Festival in Carpinteria. I got to arguing with this fellow called Angelo. He said he had a Hellen, and I said I had a Hellen. And his Hellen didn't look like my Hellen. And we determined that his Hellen has one L, was named after a lady in Santa Barbara, and that's where he got his Hellen tree, which was a perfect shaped tree with a perfect round fruit without much flavor. And mine was a bigger tree, but it's shaped a little bit like a Fuerte, with fantastic flavored fruit of pear shape.
Pear shape, okay.
And it's Hellen with 2 L's, and I would highly recommend it to anybody. It is a wonderful fruit.
Is it a Guatemalan type?
It would have to be Guatemalan Mexican. I don't know its heritage.
Hybrid? Okay.
Yeah, it's genetics.
All right, great. Hellen, that's another variety that I hope becomes more popular and becomes more available to people, because
I hope it does too, because it is the best.
It's a good avocado.
I always say the best one in May is JB. The best one in July is Hellen. The best one in September, October, Reed. But there's a lot of them that are really good. In February, I'd go for Pinkerton. September, let's see, November, December, Stewart. It's the best Mexican avocado going. And Mexican avocados, you can use the leaves for tea and things. You cannot with the others.
You can organize your yard in a way that you can get avocados all year long. You can
try, or you can be like me and make it, put all the trees, and then the squirrels eat the fruit.
Julie had a lot of fruit last time, and now we checked her trees. A lot of fruit's gone, unfortunately. The squirrels got in there. So,
but they're healthy and fat.
Does that have fattest squirrels in the neighborhood?
I think so.
All right, we'll wrap this up.
Okay.
Julie, thank you for your time.
You're so welcome.
And
you kept me from having to clean and vacuum my house.
Okay. So we're keeping Julie from her tasks here, so she can sit talk about avocados, which I'm pretty sure she prefers over cleaning her house. So thank you for your time, Julie.
You're welcome.
It was a great conversation. Bye, everyone. See you later.